Ciao, bom dia. So, I have a few moments. I'm clearly taking some wellness time right now. I schedule that every day, so I thought now would be a great time to um, do my Friday wellness chat. Uh, yeah, so it's raining outside in New York City, and I'm really glad about that actually, because rain is it's purifying. That's one. I'm glad because the rain means that there are less crowds in the street, which is really important. People where I'm at have sort of been operating as if there isn't anything called COVID-19 out there. So I'm glad about that for their sakes. That's one. And I'm glad about that for my sake and for your sake as well. Okay, there is something very real called COVID out there, and I'm not a doctor. I do know people who've been affected by this, and I know people who, in fact, have died from this, and it's just, yeah, it's sad. Clearly, I'm going to try not to cry again, but when we do, it's okay because crying is healing and natural in any case. So, I shared yesterday that I'm technically challenged right now, so I haven't been able to do the live broadcast that I want. Also, I can't locate the camera that would enable me to do this sort of seamlessly and flawlessly. I can't locate it right now, and that's okay. We're all going through a lot of changes, and that I'm not the exception to this rule. So yeah, but when these things happen, it's really important that we overcome these challenges and that you just find a way around it. So that's what I'm doing right now. I don't have the things that normally, keep me comfortable. I'm not able to run as much. I'm also distant from my networks. Yeah, that's painful for me too. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know if you can tell, but I feel the tears, and it's been hard. It's not just what's going on right now, but it's everything that I've shared. Some of it with you, some of it will be shared in a book, some of it will be shared in a documentary, and some of it will be shared in a film. But yeah, for the past few years, and still even now, I am fighting. I did have to file litigation against New York Law School. And they're just pretending as if the whole Me Too movement came, and they're pretending as if, oh, we've always been supportive of women's rights. No, you haven't. And I filed a lawsuit against you stating that. Black Lives Matter. The whole movement began. I was in law school, and they're just pretending like, oh, we've always been supportive of Black lives. No, you haven't, and that's why I filed litigation against you, demonstrating just that. The Southern District of New York, right now, people are hailing the Southern District of New York, the court, as being something of a model for other courts to follow in terms of civil rights and diversity, and upholding and defending and protecting the law. And I'm having a chuckle to myself, thinking, actually, no, you haven't. And that's why I submitted a formal complaint against your judge, who was all too happy to violate my rights. And when I filed the complaint against Judge Cott, they were all too happy to dismiss it. And first, they took a year to respond because apparently white men in America cannot be held accountable for the wrongs that they commit, particularly when it's against women or a person of color. I happen to be both, particularly when they don't like the claims, the complaints, or the charges coming out of your mouth. And he didn't like anything I had to say, and he let me know in no certain terms, and let me know that you people You know, what people are those? Women, black people, people who who happen to come across your courtroom and they have complaints against people that you like, or they have complaints that you don't feel should be litigated. During this process, New York Law School and Judge Cott has let the entire world know what they think about black women, what they think about black people, what they think about people who file civil rights claims against white people and white men in particular. And I do want to highlight something about this. It wasn't just white people on staff at New York Law School who violated my rights. It wasn't just men. There were many people of color, and many of them were women. And I do want to say that particularly today, the reason that people are able to get away with a lot of the crimes that they commit, it's no different than in Jeffrey Epstein. It's no different in the cases against Matt Lauer or any of the other powerful men or the entities that have been brought to justice or that have been investigated all too late. Justice denied is justice delayed, by the way. In case we're not clear about that, let's just clear that up right now. But women were a large part of their protectors and their defenders and their enablers. And that is no different than what's happening here. And people of color were even in on it. So Deborah Archer, she was the assistant dean at the time. Anthony Crowell, the dean of New York Law School, sent Deborah Archer to meet with me rather than come himself. No, he couldn't be bothered with doing that. He only had eyes or time for Jason Singer. He only had eyes or time for Stephen Nesbitt. That's where he chose to give his time. And if a male had done that, they would have called it exactly what it was. When you choose to, because you're attracted to men, when you choose only to, when you choose to handle allegations against your desires and your preferred group of people for your sexual interests, when men do that, they call it what it is. They call it sexual misconduct. You know, but when this gay white man decided to do this, you know, I don't know. It's not that I don't know. It's what we've always known, is that as a black woman in America, your voice means so much less to people in positions of authority. And he had a lot of assistance from women. Victoria Eastis was another one. She was the Title IX coordinator at the time. And in the documents, I did say, you know, that she was less outwardly aggressive and disrespectful to me than other people. There's something called gaslighting. You don't know what it is? Look it up. You may want to be familiar with the term. There is called some legal, it's not legal jargon. These things exist in the world, but they have a special meaning in the law. So, conspiracy, coercion, malfeasance, nonfeasance, misfeasance. These are things that you'd want to look up. And at the time when I was under the darkest and the deepest trauma, women were there who were pretending to be my allies and who weren't. And they were making sure that Stephen Nesbitt was not penalized. They were making sure that Anthony Crowell was not penalized for their misconduct. They were enabling. They were obstructing. They were doing a whole host of things. And that occurred in 2014 of October 6, 2014 to be exact. Yeah. The date October 6th should ring a bell for a specific reason. But the men were not without support from females, and they were not without support from people of color. So that's something I want to say. You can be a person of color and not be an ally to women of color. You can be a woman and not be an ally to women. And that's what I've experienced. And it wasn't just limited to professors or staff. There was Dorothy McCullough. There were many other people that were involved, and I would say this, I don't associate with people of ill repute and ill character, but sit me in front of a yearbook, a picture book in New York Law U, and I will tell you who the violent male aggressors were. I will tell you the females who wrongfully interfered to ensure that whites and men did not face penalties for the misdeeds and the misactions and the malfeasance and the nonfeasance that they were so eager to commit. And yeah, so we go through these things and we survive these things. I will say this, I am a Christian, but I think some people misunderstand what it means to be a Christian, so I'm going to be very, very clear. My Christian values do not prohibit me from suing you for the misdeeds that you do. It doesn't prohibit me from holding you accountable or for insisting that you pay the entire judgment of what you owe. And that will always be my stance. These people committed crimes, they committed misdeeds and misconduct, and until they have paid everything that they owe, and it wasn't just me. There were people who didn't come forward. There were people who came forward and interfered wrongfully for whatever benefit they could get. There were people who came forward, like Jason Singer, who was all too eager to say, who came forward, and once he had extracted all of the information that would be helpful for New York Law School, and his buddy who was supplying him with lucrative, I hate bugs, and a bug just came near me. In any case, once he had, to the tunes of thousands of dollars, while his buddy Anthony Crowell, the dean of New York Law School, was plying him full of lucrative things, he then said, once he had gotten everything that they needed to help them avoid liability, he then said, I can't be of assistance because and he began to lay out the case for how there was still more that he could get, and how he wouldn't receive these benefits if he spoke out, or he feared he wouldn't receive any more benefits if he spoke out. And yeah. So if you're hiring people in the legal community who have no concept and no understanding of what it means to be a person of good character, to be a person in moral standing, and a person who upholds and defends civil rights, you're in big trouble. So I want to say that to a lot of people. I went to New York Law School, and the number of people who genuinely supported Black lives and genuinely supported women, I can count them on two hands. And not one of them was a white female student. Very few of them were white males. It was really just a sprinkling of people. So I do want to say that you may be in more trouble than you know. Yeah. So, Judge Cobb. One of the funniest, it's not funny, and it's devastating for civil rights, it's devastating for human rights and women's rights, and for justice. If you look at the people who were most deeply involved in that misconduct and in misconduct around, you'll see not only are they people in positions of authority, but when you look at the roles that they've had, you have to wonder, how long have we been perverting justice? So Judge Cott had been involved, he had worked for a major civil rights organization. And when the vile and racist, tyrannical statements began flowing out of his mouth, when he became so enraged that his aides had to get in front of him, when he had to make this inglorious exit because he could no longer cope, during a settlement conference while he was cloaked in judicial robes, and you look back and see that he had been an attorney with a major civil rights organization, it makes you wonder, how long have we been perverting justice? It's as if the systems were designed intentionally to fail. Also, one of the female professors at the school also was had some sort of leadership role in a major civil rights organization, and she was another one who came out with strong statements and was decided to voice her views during a lecture, actually, that if this has happened to you, basically talking about my situation, when this has happened to you, like, you're SOL. I don't know if you know what that means, but yeah, I won't spell it out, but you're out of luck, honey. That it was like, just like, give up now because nothing's going to happen. And that's deeply troubling on many levels. I think about all of the civil rights violations that have occurred. I think about all of the people who have been denied justice, and I don't wonder why. I look at the people who were hired and given positions of authority in those institutions, and I know why. I've interacted with you all, and I know why. It's like putting a rapist in charge of a women's school. And many times that's what we've done. We've paid lip service to the idea of justice, of equality, of women's rights, human rights, and civil rights. And then we have crippled that message and that goal by intentionally placing people in those positions who do not value civil rights, human rights, and women's rights. And then when you're called to account for it, there's just more talk about what will change and how things will change. But the talk is over. The talk is over. One of the saddest things that I was thinking about recently is I went to vote. And what made it so sad to me is that as I went to vote, I was keenly aware that there are no qualified candidates on the ballot. There's no one who has demonstrated a lifetime of support for these issues. I remember Anita Hill, not because of my age at the time, but as I came of age, I looked back. I looked for good people. I looked for people who lived by their values, and I didn't see them. I will say that was one of the hard things, and I'm not afraid to say that today. I have to say that people are saying right now Joe Biden is a better choice than Trump. Why do we have to choose between two equally grotesque candidates? Joe Biden is here with the message that women and people of color have heard all before. Yeah. Why haven't you changed the system? Why haven't you changed the system to date? You're just waiting for the big payout? And he can say, well, you don't know me, you haven't worked closest with me. I look at the people around you. I look at the past things you've done. I can look at your family. We can't avoid talking about Joe Biden's family. The values, did your grandchildren fall far from the tree? That's a disaster in the making. His children and his grandchildren, they commit acts. I wouldn't allow my children to associate with people who behave like that. I wouldn't hire people of those character qualities to my company. I wouldn't vote for them. Yet the people close to you, this is the impact that you've had on their life. This is